Kai's heart hammered against his ribs as he stood under the glaring gymnasium lights. The entire school had gathered for the award ceremony, and a moment ago he had been smiling, hopeful, ready to accept the Student of the Year medal. But now, shock pinned him in place. A murmur rippled through the crowd as a large projector screen behind the principal flickered to life. On the screen was an email chain showing the theft of the upcoming final exam answers, and it had Kai's name all over it. His email address, plans discussing how to break into the school's server late at night. In one photo, grainy security camera footage showed a figure in a hoodie inside the principal's office. The principal's voice rang out. "We have clear evidence that Kai was responsible for this breach." A collective gasp came from the students sitting on the bleachers. Kai felt his knees threaten to buckle. This had to be a nightmare. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. "I never did any of that," his mind screamed. He had never even seen those emails before, yet there it was, irrefutable evidence painting him as a cheater and a thief in front of everyone. Whispers increased into angry shouts. "I knew he was too good to be true," someone hissed from the front row. Teachers exchanged shocked glances. The pride and admiration Kai had seen in their eyes only moments ago had morphed into disgust and disappointment. Up on stage, the principal turned toward Kai. Beside him stood Jason, Kai's best friend, who had moments earlier been clapping the loudest for him. Now Jason's expression was a mask of betrayal and hurt. He stepped forward to take the microphone from the principal. Kai's stomach dropped. Why was Jason up there? I didn't want to believe it, Jason said. Kai is my best friend, or at least I thought he was. But I saw things. I found out he was planning to steal the exam answers. Jason's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I confronted him, and he admitted it to me. He begged me not to tell anyone. What? Kai finally choked out, his voice cracking. Jason was lying. None of that ever happened. There had never been such a conversation. He looked at Jason with pleading eyes, willing him to stop this madness. Jason wouldn't meet his gaze. He spoke on. I didn't want to believe it, sir, but then I found these. From his blazer pocket, Jason dramatically produced a folded stack of papers. He unfurled them, and the principal held them up so everyone could see. They looked like printouts of the leaked exam answers, with Kai's student login details on the header. Kai's face went cold. The realization hit Kai like a thunderbolt. Jason had planted them. Before Kai could gather his wits to defend himself, another figure approached. Mio, her long dark hair flowing over her shoulders, stepped hesitantly toward the microphone Jason now held. Kai's crush, the girl he had dreamed of asking to prom next month, looked at him with tears in her eyes. Her lips trembled. I'm sorry, Kai, she said softly. Kai's heart twisted at her apologetic tone. Mio believed this? Or was she part of it? Mio clutched her hands to her chest as if gathering courage. She turned to address the crowd. I can't keep quiet. I have to tell the truth, she said, voice cracking as a tear rolled down her cheek. Last week, Kai told me something. We were talking after school and he bragged that he had a way to ace the exams without studying. I didn't understand at first, but then he showed me a copy of the history final. She took a shuddering breath, looking away as if ashamed. He said he got it so we could study together. I told him it was wrong. I begged him to put it back, but he laughed and said everyone cheats to get ahead. A ripple of shock went through the crowd. Mio's shoulders shook with sobs. I wanted to believe he was joking, but then I heard about the break-in. I knew I had to come forward, she said. Kai could barely breathe. His mind was reeling. None of this was true. None of it. Why was she doing this? Mio, who used to smile so brightly at him, who he thought cared for him, why was she looking at him now like he was some kind of criminal? He realized with horror that she wasn't looking at him at all anymore, and Jason had an arm around her shoulders, comforting her. A few teachers stepped forward, including Coach Harris, who grabbed Kai's arm firmly. Kai flinched, trying to pull away. Kai protested. He tried to step toward Jason and Mio. Jason, why are you lying? Mio, please. His voice was a raw plea, but Coach Harris's grip tightened painfully, keeping Kai in place. Enough, the principal barked. He shook his head and turned to address the student body. Effective immediately, Kai Darius is expelled from Ridgewood High for gross academic dishonesty and theft of school property. The weight of those words fell on Kai like a ton of bricks. The auditorium erupted. Kai's face burned with humiliation and fear. This couldn't be real. Please, you have to believe me. I didn't do it, Kai shouted, but his plea only made the crowd jeer. Jason stepped forward, still playing the sorrowful friend. Don't make it worse, Kai, he said loudly, and though his tone was sympathetic, his words were damning. Just accept it. It's over. Mio peeked out from behind her hands, tears still glistening on her cheeks. For an instant, her and Kai's eyes met, in her gaze, but all he saw was hurt and disappointment that she feigned so convincingly. The principal signaled Coach Harris and another teacher. Escort him off school grounds, he ordered sharply. They began to pull Kai towards the exit at the side of the stage. Panic thundered in Kai's chest. This was actually happening. They were dragging him away like a criminal. As the teachers hauled him toward the double doors of the gym, the last thing Kai heard was Mio's muffled sobs and Jason's steady voice telling her, "It'll be okay now. We did the right thing." Inside the administrative office, the secretary and a few staff members looked up in shock. The principal followed in behind Kai. "Call his parents," he instructed the secretary curtly. Within half an hour, Kai found himself sitting stiffly in the principal's office, flanked by his mother and father. His mother's eyes were red-rimmed, tearful, and confused. His father's face was stony. The principal had just finished recounting the entire incident to them, ending with, "I'm truly sorry it came to this. Kai was one of our brightest students, but our evidence is incontrovertible." The evidence, those faked emails, those papers Jason handed over, spoke louder than anything Kai could muster in that moment of shock. He looked from the principal to his parents, eyes pleading, "Mom, Dad, you have to believe me. I would never, could never." His voice cracked. This was his family. They had to know he wasn't a thief or a cheater. Kai's father slowly turned his gaze on his son. The disappointment and anger there made Kai flinch. "Then how do you explain all this, Kai?" his father said. "Those emails, your login, they have witnesses saying you bragged about it." Kai opened his mouth, but no explanation came. How could he explain something he himself didn't understand? "Jason and Mio are lying," he said quietly. His father's eyes flashed. "Enough." The single word was sharp. "Jason has been your best friend since you were a toddler." "Mio," he shook his head in disbelief. Why on earth would they lie? What reason could they possibly have to do something so cruel? Kai had no answer. Finally, the principal cleared his throat. "Regardless of the why, the evidence is what it is." He slid a formal letter across the desk toward Kai's parents. "This is the expulsion notice. I suggest you discuss how to proceed with Kai's education outside of Ridgewood High." Kai's mother gave a small, broken sound, but couldn't say anything. His father took the letter with a shaking hand. "Thank you, Principal Morgan. We'll handle it from here." Principal Morgan offered a sympathetic nod that didn't reach his eyes. "I truly am sorry," looking at Kai. Kai stood numbly when his father gestured for him to rise. They walked him out of the office down the hall. The secretary avoided Kai's eyes as they passed. She had always been so friendly. Now her face was pale and uncomfortable. When they reached the parking lot, Kai spotted two juniors he knew by the gate, staring openly as he walked by with his parents. One of them, Elliot, actually sneered and turned away as if the sight of Kai disgusted him. Kai's cheeks burned with humiliation. He lowered his gaze. His mother unlocked the family car, and they all got in. The silence on the drive home was heavier than lead. When they pulled into the driveway of their home, a modest two-story house where Kai had lived all his life, his father put the car in park and finally turned to face him, and Kai braced himself. "We will talk about this inside." Inside, as soon as the front door closed, his parents rounded on him. His mother's sorrow had morphed into anger on the drive. "How could you lie to us like this? For months, stealing tests, cheating, and we had no idea. All those nights you told us you were studying late at Jason's house. Was that when you were planning all this?" Kai's jaw dropped. "No, Mom, I was studying. Or just playing games or watching movies. Jason can tell you that." As soon as he said Jason's name, Kai's stomach churned. His father's eyes flashed with renewed anger. "Don't you dare bring Jason into this as if he's at fault. That boy did the right thing coming forward. He showed more integrity than you." Tears slipped down Kai's face. "That is the truth," he said in a small voice. He looked to his mother, seeking any sign of belief, but she just shook her head, eyes full of disappointment that cut deeper than any blade. "We'll get to the bottom of this later," his father said. He pointed down the hall. "Go to your room, Kai. Hand over your phone and laptop. If you're really innocent, there's nothing on them, right?" Kai hesitated, but he had nothing to hide. Slowly, he pulled his phone from his pocket and placed it on the table, then went to retrieve his laptop from his backpack, which he had dropped by the door. He handed it to his father without a word. His father accepted these items, then turned away. He closed the door and collapsed onto his bed. In that warm light, Kai stared blankly at the familiar posters on his wall, the soccer trophies on his shelf, the photos of him with Jason and Mio pinned to his corkboard. They looked so happy, so genuine. Kai tore the photo off the board with a snarl, his hands shaking. "Why?" he croaked out to the empty room. Kai pressed the heels of his palms into his eyes, as if he could push back the tears and the pain. He had never felt so alone, betrayed. As night fell, Kai lay there sleepless. Kai's eyes burned from crying, but he felt too empty to cry anymore. In that darkness, one thought came to him with chilling clarity. They shouldn't get away with this. Immediately, he felt guilty for even thinking of vengeance. That wasn't who he was, or at least, who he used to be, a voice whispered. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating his room for a split second in stark white. Kai blinked, startled. A low rumble of thunder followed. It was going to rain. In the dim light of his room, Kai's reflection in the window glass caught his eye. He saw a silhouette of a boy slumped and broken, but in that flash of lightning it almost looked like a stranger, someone cold, eyes burning with something raw and primal. He tore his gaze away. With a shaking breath, Kai stood and crept to his door. Kai quietly turned the knob and stepped out. He couldn't stay in that suffocating room any longer. He needed air, needed to think. He slipped out of the house through the back door. Kai walked out to the end of the yard, where an old oak tree stood. It had been his thinking spot since childhood. He, Jason, and Mio used to sit under it during sleepovers, whispering secrets and dreams. Kai sank to the ground at the base of the oak. He didn't care if he got wet. Tilting his head back against the bark, he finally allowed himself to whisper aloud, "Why? Why are you doing this to me?" His voice cracked in the empty yard. He wasn't even sure who the question was for. Jason and Mio? Fate? God? His chest felt tight, the pain of betrayal like a physical weight. The thought of returning to school, or any school, made him nauseous. Kai's hands clenched into fists in the damp grass. The rain was pelting down harder now, but he hardly noticed. Lightning blasted across the sky, closer this time. A flash so bright Kai's eyelids glowed red. His breath caught. The raindrops around him were frozen in midair. Kai's heart pounded wildly. He blinked and shook his head, squeezing his eyes shut and open again. The rain was still there, hanging unmoving. Am I dreaming? He wondered. He reached out with a hand and poked at one of the suspended droplets. It rippled around his finger, then resumed falling. Just that single drop. All others remained frozen. Kai's chest constricted. This isn't real, he thought frantically. When he raised a trembling hand, the distortions intensified around his fingers. Drawing a shaky breath, Kai focused on one of the orbiting droplets. He thought, "Stop." It immediately halted in place. His eyes widened. Then he thought, "Move right." The droplet veered right obediently. It was as if his mind had reached out and touched it. Suddenly, the suspended droplet elongated and stretched into a shape Kai was envisioning without even realizing. It became a tiny shimmering fish that swam through the air around him before dissolving back into spray. Kai let out a startled laugh at the sheer absurdity of it. Did I just do that? Swallowing hard, Kai decided to test it further. He concentrated, furrowing his brow, and imagined the rain stopping again. Freeze, he thought. For a second, nothing happened. Kai inhaled and focused harder, mustering all the emotion coursing through him into one command. Stop. The world responded. The raindrops slowed and once more came to a standstill, suspended in the air. This time Kai was sure it was not a fluke. To test his limits, Kai thought, let me stay dry. The falling water veered around him, as if he were covered by an invisible umbrella. He wasn't getting any wetter despite the downpour. Kai let out a breathless chuckle of astonishment. He turned his gaze to the far end of the yard. It was nearly midnight by the feel of it. On a whim, Kai held out his hand and willed a small light to appear there. He pictured the warm glow of a firefly. A moment later, a tiny orb of golden light flickered into existence above his palm. It looked exactly like a firefly's glow, dancing in midair. Kai's eyes widened in delight. It wasn't a real firefly, he knew. It was an illusion. That word resonated with him. Was that his power? The ability to create and control illusions? It fit what he had seen so far. He felt powerful. Clenching his hand into a fist, Kai whispered into the damp night, Jason, Mio, you will regret what you've done. I swear it. With that, Kai turned toward the house, invisible droplets of water still parting gently for him with each step. As he quietly snuck back into the house, a faint glint of lightning lit up his reflection in the sliding glass door. For an instant, Kai thought he saw another figure standing behind him in that reflection, watching him. He whipped around, heart lurching. Nothing was there, only the empty yard and the rain. He swallowed and chalked it up to his imagination. Kai lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling in the darkness. Tomorrow, the path of revenge begins. Morning light filtered through Kai's curtains, waking him from a restless sleep. Checking the clock, Kai realized it was late morning. He'd overslept. Not that it mattered. He had no school to attend now. Outside, the world felt strangely new to Kai's sharpened senses. He could see the tiniest dewdrops on the grass. If his mother looked out the window right now, she would see him standing in the yard, seemingly lost in thought. But in truth, Kai was practicing. He cast a subtle veil around himself, just a test, a slight bending of light. To him, it looked like the air wavered. To an outside observer, he hoped it meant he'd be harder to notice, like a camouflaged shape. He walked down the sidewalk, past a neighbor walking their dog. The neighbor glanced his way, but her gaze slid off him with only mild acknowledgement, as if her mind reasoned she saw nothing of interest. It wasn't invisibility exactly, but more like being unremarkable, almost unseen. It seemed to be working. The dog, however, sniffed and looked at him curiously, perhaps sensing something strange. Kai focused and made a gentle illusion of a squirrel darting across the street. The dog immediately tugged away, chasing the non-existent animal. This ability was incredible. He felt like a ghost in plain sight. His initial experiments proved he could affect both sight and sound, perhaps even smell and touch if he tried, but one step at a time. He walked toward the town center, It was a short distance, and by the time he reached the corner store, he saw exactly the group he half expected. A trio of senior boys from school. They were laughing about something. Kai caught a snippet as he approached unseen. Seriously, the dweeb started crying like a baby. One of the boys, Tanner, was saying with a snicker. Kai's fists clenched. They were talking about him, no doubt recounting his humiliation. Wish I'd been there to see it. Another chuckled. Good riddance, you ask me. We don't need cheats at our school. Kai's blood boiled. Tanner had bullied him a few times in the past, until Jason stepped in to stop it. The bitter irony that Jason was now worse than any bully wasn't lost on him. But these guys, part of Kai wanted to avoid them, but another part thought, a test, a small taste of what I can do. Before he could second-guess himself, Kai dropped the subtle camouflage and stepped fully into view just a few feet from the group. Hey, he said flatly. The three boys jerked in surprise. They hadn't seen him approach. Tanner's eyes widened when he recognized Kai. What the? Tanner started, instinctively stepping back. Then he caught himself and scowled. Well, if it isn't the famous cheater, you got some nerve showing your face around here. Kai felt a pang at the insult, but he forced a calm he didn't entirely feel. I'm just out for a walk, he said. He noted how the other two flanked Tanner, arms crossing. Walk yourself somewhere else, the second boy, Harris, sneered. Aren't you supposed to be hiding in shame? Kai's jaw tightened. Perhaps this wasn't wise, best not to escalate too overtly. He started to turn away, deciding to let it be, when he heard Tanner mutter, once a coward, always a coward. At that, Kai paused. The old Kai would have backed down or tried to reason. The new Kai, he had other methods. He steadied himself, meeting Tanner's gaze. He focused his power, envisioning the most terrifying thing he could think of that might scare a bully like Tanner out of his wits. Tanner reached for Kai's collar aggressively, but before he could grab it, Kai whispered under his breath, see what I want you to see. To Tanner and his friends, the world suddenly shifted. The bright morning seemed to dim as if the sun had been eclipsed. The shadows around the alley next to the store lengthened unnaturally. Behind Kai, the three boys saw a figure emerge from those shadows, a towering silhouette with burning eyes. It was an illusion Kai conjured, a nightmare version of Coach Harris mixed with something monstrous, since he knew Tanner was terrified of their strict coach. What is going on here? The phantom coach bellowed, voice echoing like rolling thunder. The other two boys yelped in surprise. Tanner spun around, his bravado evaporating. See, Coach Harris, we were just... Tanner stammered, his hands raised defensively. The phantom coach's eyes flared as he roared. I've had enough of you troublemakers. That did it. Tanner and his buddies turned tail and bolted down the street. As soon as they were far enough, Kai released the illusions. Kai leaned against the wall of the store, laughing breathlessly. It felt good. Kai considered his next steps. He needed to know more about what Jason and Mio were doing now. He headed toward Ridgewood High. It was almost lunchtime at school, he figured. Upon approaching the campus, Kai steeled himself. He was trespassing now, but with his powers, he was confident he could avoid detection. Whenever a teacher or student came near, Kai willed himself unseen. Their eyes would slide over him as if he were not noteworthy. Finally, he spotted the two people he was looking for. Outside the cafeteria, Jason and Mio sat at a picnic table under the shade of an oak. They were alone together. Kai carefully took cover behind a nearby shrub and focused his hearing. Sound was just another sense. Maybe he could funnel their voices to himself. He concentrated. Still can't believe it happened so fast, Jason was saying. Mio sat across from him, her face downcast. We did what we had to, Mio replied. She toyed with her sandwich, not meeting Jason's eyes. I feel awful. He looked so hurt. Jason reached out and took Mio's hand across the table. Mio, listen. Kai would have dragged us both down if we didn't stop him. You saw how ambitious he was. He was ready to cheat his way to the top and, Mio interjected softly, but he didn't try to drag us into anything until you pushed him. I still don't get why you gave him those papers and then... Jason quickly shushed her, glancing around. Keep your voice down, he hissed. Mio bit her lip. Jason moved to sit next to Mio, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Mio, Jason murmured. I know, but Kai wasn't who we thought he was. He was going to ruin us with his actions. We had to protect ourselves. And we have a future to think about. Together. Mio wiped her eyes. Jason gently tilted her chin toward him. Listen, after graduation none of this will matter. We'll go to college. Start fresh. Kai will move on too. He'll be fine. Mio hesitated, then nodded weakly. Jason gave her a small reassuring smile, and to Kai's further fury, leaned in to kiss her forehead. Mio closed her eyes, leaning into him for comfort. Kai looked away, his vision blurring with rage. So they really were together now, openly. Perhaps that was part of Jason's motive all along. Get rid of Kai and have Mio to himself. Or maybe Mio had been with Jason behind his back even earlier. The thought churned his stomach. His best friend and the girl he loved. cuddled up without a care, after destroying his life. His hands trembled and a wave of uncontrolled energy rippled out. A nearby garbage can rattled loudly as if struck. The sound shattered the quiet, startling Jason and Mio apart. They both looked around nervously, Jason even standing as if expecting to see someone. Kai ducked further behind the shrub, heart pounding. He hadn't meant to let his power slip out. Mio stood as well, visibly uneasy. "What was that?" she asked. Jason scanned the area. His gaze slid over the shrub without seeing the boy concealed there. "Probably just a raccoon knocked something over," he finally said. "Come on, let's get to class." Mio nodded. Kai slipped out the way he came. He had learned a few crucial things. Mio's conscience was fragile. Jason was fiercely determined to stick to their fabricated story, and they were definitely an item now, meaning they likely colluded fully in his betrayal. Kai's chest ached from the emotional blow of seeing them together, but he refused to let that pain weaken his resolve. His mind flashed back to the upcoming events on the school calendar. Prom was in just a few weeks, followed closely by the year-end awards ceremony and graduation. Yes, prom night, midnight at the height of their celebration, would be perfect for a reckoning. With a final glance at the school's main building, Kai turned and left, unseen and unnoticed. He had work to do, and powers to hone. The following days turned into a psychological chess match as Kai set his plan into motion. Mio was first. Late one evening, when Mio was home alone studying, Kai made his move. Concealed by an invisibility illusion, he had crept up to the window of her bedroom. He saw her curled up on her bed with textbooks. She hadn't been sleeping well. Kai could tell by the dark circles under her eyes. Maybe nightmares already plagued her. If so, he was about to give them form. Inside Mio's room, the lamp flickered. Mio glanced up, frowning slightly. She set her book aside and stood, cautious. The lamp flickered again, then went out, plunging the room into dim shadows lit only by the hallway light filtering under the door. Mio approached the lamp and tapped it. At that moment, Kai made his next move. In the mirror above her dresser, a faint silhouette appeared. The shape was just behind Mio's shoulder in the mirror, tall and dark. Mio caught the movement in the reflection and spun around. "Hello?" she whispered. Her room was empty. Mio exhaled shakily, trying to calm herself. Kai waited until she sat back on the bed, then he let a soft sound drift through her room, the creak of the floorboards. Mio jolted and whirled again. No one. Mio reached for her phone on the bedside table. Kai anticipated she might call someone, so he acted quickly. As she unlocked her phone, a new text message from a contact labeled Kai. Mio nearly dropped the phone. Hands trembling, she opened the message. It read, "Why did you betray me?" A tiny sob escaped her lips. She blinked rapidly, and in that blink, Kai erased the text so that when she looked again, there was nothing. Mio frantically scrolled, baffled, whimpering. Kai pressed on, whispering into the night air, weaving his voice directly into her ear. "Mio," the disembodied whisper echoed softly in her room. Mio froze. "Kai?" she breathed, eyes wide with horror. She slid off the bed, backing against the wall. This isn't real. You're not here," she whispered to herself. Kai let the temperature in the room seem to drop. Mio felt a sudden chill. Her breath came out in a quaver. Then, on Mio's desk, papers suddenly fluttered, as if a breeze passed through, and in the rustling, she could almost hear the word liar. That broke her. With a strangled cry, Mio bolted from the room, sprinting down the hall. Kai heard her fumbling with the house phone moments later, voice panicked as she called someone. He was content to let her run. He lingered long enough to catch snippets of her phone call through an open window. As expected, she had called Jason. "I swear I heard him, Jason. I'm freaking out," she was saying, voice thick with tears. Kai couldn't hear Jason's side, but he could imagine him trying to calm her, rationalize it away. "Maybe it's just stress," Mio whimpered. "I keep thinking, what if he does something? To himself?" Her voice hitched. "It would be our fault." Kai felt a pang. He hadn't considered that angle of her guilt. Jason's reply was too muffled to catch fully, but Kai caught the words, "Don't think like that," and "We did nothing wrong." Mio wasn't fully convinced by Jason's assurances. That much was clear from her trembling voice. Good, Kai thought as he slipped away from the house. Next was Jason. Unlike Mio, Jason's weakness wasn't guilt. Kai doubted he felt much of that at all. No, Jason's vulnerability was his pride and the fear of losing what he'd gained. 2 nights later, when Kai was certain Jason's parents were out, he paid a visit to Jason's house. From the dark corner of the basement room, Kai watched Jason on the couch, obliviously focused on the game character on screen. Kai began by altering what Jason saw on the television, and for a split second, the photograph of Kai that had been displayed during his public accusation, with the word cheater stamped over it. It was brief, but enough for Jason to flinch in confusion. He shook his head and smacked the side of the TV, thinking it was a glitch. Kai smirked. He did it again, longer this time. The screen distorted. The photo of Kai appeared again, and this time it spoke in Kai's voice. "You know what you did." Jason yelped and dropped his controller. The screen snapped back to the game instantly. Heart pounding, Jason fumbled for the remote to turn off the console. The room fell silent. Jason stood. "Hello?" he called uncertainly. Of course he saw no one. Kai decided to play off one of Jason's deepest fears, being exposed and losing face. In the quiet, Kai made Jason hear the sound of a phone notification. Jason looked at his own phone on the coffee table. Nothing. Then from upstairs, the faint sound of a printer whirring to life echoed. Jason jerked his head toward the basement stairs. Was someone in the house? The printer? He swallowed, and mustering courage, crept upstairs to his father's home office where the family printer was. Kai silently followed at a distance. Jason pushed open the office door and flicked on the light. Jason hesitated before approaching the output tray. His face went ashen when he saw what was printing. Copies of an email detailing the entire plan to frame Kai, and explicit mentions of planting evidence and coercing Mio. "No, I never wrote this," he gasped. As he flipped through the sheets, bold red letters began to bleed through the paper, forming the words, "Caught red-handed." He dropped the stack as if it burned him. Suddenly, every light in the room flickered off, plunging Jason into darkness. Kai had him exactly where he wanted. A projector in the corner, normally used for family presentations, blazed to life. Jason shielded his eyes, then looked at the projection and felt his heart plummet. It was a live feed of him. He was surrounded by ghostly figures of students pointing at him, chanting, "Cheater, liar, traitor." He clapped his hands over his ears. "Stop it," he yelled, panicking. He lunged at the projector to turn it off, but in his state, he tripped over the office chair and fell hard to the floor. Kai dispelled the illusions in an instant. The lights returned to normal. Jason, panting on the floor, looked wildly around. Everything was exactly as it had been. No evidence of what he'd witnessed. Moments later, Kai, still lurking unseen by the staircase, heard Jason's tense voice on a call, likely with Mio. Given the urgent whispering, "Something's wrong. I swear someone was here." Mio's voice was faintly audible. She sounded terrified as well, describing how she couldn't sleep because of nightmares, and how she thought she saw Kai in her house. Kai caught words like paranoia and stress, but also Jason's unsettled tone as he double-checked that Mio hadn't told anyone else about their deception. That made Kai grin darkly. Jason was worrying Mio might confess if she got too scared. Over the next week, Kai maintained the pressure. He visited Mio and Jason repeatedly with illusions. Rumors began floating around school that Jason and Mio seemed off. Mio avoided dark hallways, preferring to be in well-lit, crowded places. Jason, normally charismatic, had grown irritable and paranoid. One day in class, he erupted at a classmate who tapped him on the shoulder, and Kai heard whispers that he was losing it from exam stress or guilt over turning in his friend. Kai prepared the final act. Each had been pushed to the brink. Now it was time to make them fall. When prom night arrived, Ridgewood High decorated the school gym in shimmering lights and streamers. Kai was ready. From a hidden vantage point outside the gym's main doors, he watched students in formal attire filter in, laughing and chattering. Among them were Jason and Mio, arriving separately. He spotted Jason near the stage. Jason was doing a poor job of pretending everything was fine. Mio stood at the edge of the dance floor in a lovely blue gown, but she seemed small and lost. A couple of her friends tried to get her to join a dance, but she shook her head, offering a weak smile. They left her alone, exchanging worried glances. As the clock neared midnight, the student council president took the stage, tapping the mic. "All right, everyone, it's time to announce this year's prom king and queen." The crowd cheered and clapped. A faculty chaperone brought out 2 shiny crowns. The president opened an envelope. "Your prom king is Jason." A spotlight swung to Jason. Students applauded. Despite recent odd behavior, Jason was still one of the most well-known seniors. "And this year's prom queen, Mio," the president announced next. Another spotlight found Mio, and after a moment, Mio gathered herself and made her way through the applauding crowd to the stage, trying to hold her composure. Kai's eyes gleamed. Fate, or rather the popularity contest, had placed both his betrayers in the perfect spotlight. Jason and Mio stood together at center stage as they were crowned. The student council president joked about them making a great couple and invited them to share a dance under the spotlight. A slow song began to play as the lights dimmed around the edges of the gym, leaving the stage brightly lit. They were supposed to dance, but for a moment Jason and Mio just stared at each other. Even from below, Kai could see Mio's hands trembling. Jason put one hand on her waist and took her hand with the other. They began to sway to the music, both stiff and tense. Kai stretched out his hands slightly, fingers splayed, and closed his eyes to concentrate. First, he targeted Mio. With a subtle weave of illusion, he dimmed the world around her and Jason, making it feel as though they were the only two in the room. Mio blinked as Jason's form subtly changed in her perception. His expression darkened into a sneer. Though in reality Jason's face was merely strained with worry, Mio saw an illusion of him looking at her with cold triumph. "You think we'll get away with it?" Illusion Jason whispered to her in a voice only she could hear. "You're pathetic, Mio. You might crack any second, won't you?" Mio's eyes widened in alarm. "Jason?" she whispered, confusion in her voice. The real Jason furrowed his brow. "What?" he whispered back, clearly not having said anything like what she heard. Kai then nudged Jason's senses. In Jason's ears, Mio's voice suddenly sounded accusing. "I can't do this, Jason," Illusion Mio said softly. "I'm telling them now. I don't care what happens to you." Jason's eyes flashed in panic and anger. Under the real music, he hissed, "What are you talking about?" His grip on her tightened involuntarily. They were starting to draw attention. People noticed their stiff movements and pained expressions. Kai had to be careful, but also knew the moment was ripe. He intensified the illusions. Illusion Jason's face that Mio saw twisted further, looking cruel and shadowed. "Maybe I should just get rid of you too after this is over," the hallucination taunted her. "Who needs a weak link?" Mio's fragile composure shattered. "No, please," she whimpered, eyes filling with tears. She tried to step back, away from Jason's hold, but he, hearing his own illusion of Mio threatening to confess, thought she was trying to pull away to blurt out the truth into the microphone. In a flash of panic, Jason grabbed her arm. "Don't!" Jason growled, louder than he intended. To everyone else, it looked like prom king and queen were having a lover's quarrel under the spotlight. Mio wrenched her arm free, finally succumbing to the real voices in her own head and the illusions Kai fed her. She thought Jason truly intended to harm her, or silence her to keep the secret. The strain of the last weeks burst out. "I'm sorry," she cried suddenly, stepping away from Jason. Her voice, amplified by the stage mic nearby, rang through the gym. The DJ, perplexed, lowered the music volume. All eyes turned to Mio, whose face was streaked with tears. Jason stood frozen, not sure what she was about to say but terrified of it. He reached out a hand toward her. "Mio, stop," he urged, his voice echoing in the now mostly quiet hall. Mio looked out at the audience of their peers. She gulped, her heart pounding. I can't lie anymore." Her voice trembled, but it was clear. A collective murmur swept the room. Mio's eyes found Principal Morgan, who had been chaperoning near the back. He was stepping forward now, alarm on his face. Jason's mind raced. This was a disaster. He lunged to grab the microphone himself, desperate to stop her. "Everything's fine. Mio's just a little emotional," he started with a nervous laugh. Kai decided on one last push. A sharp crack echoed through the speakers, an illusionary burst of static that made Jason flinch and the microphone shriek, forcing him to drop it. Mio took the chance to snatch it up, stepping out of Jason's reach. She shook her head, tears falling freely now. "No, it's not fine, Jason," she said into the mic, her voice breaking. "Everyone needs to know what we did." A stunned silence fell. Jason's face lost all color. Kai watched from below, heart pounding in his chest. This was it, the truth finally coming out by their own tongues. He felt a fierce satisfaction and a surprising lump in his throat, as years of friendship and trust that they had shattered would now be avenged with honesty. Kai didn't cheat," Mio confessed. Gasps and murmurs rose. "He never stole any exam answers. We framed him." Her voice hitched on a sob. "Jason and we set him up to take the fall for something he didn't do." All around, faces registered shock. Principal Morgan's face twisted in disbelief and anger. Jason looked as if he might faint, but then his eyes hardened. Cornered, he did what Kai expected. He tried to save himself. "She's lying," Jason shouted desperately, grabbing the another mic from the floor. His voice crackled through the sound system. She can't handle the stress. Kai absolutely cheated, we saw him." "Stop, Jason," Mio cried, dropping her crown. "I can't keep covering for you." She turned to the audience, who were riveted. "It was Jason's idea. He planned it all and I went along with it." She covered her mouth as fresh sobs racked her, the weight of her confession hitting her fully. Jason's composure shattered. "You, traitor," he hissed at Mio, forgetting they still had live microphones. His vicious tone broadcast across the gym, causing people to recoil. "You promised we were in this together." Mio backed away from him, nearly tripping on the hem of her dress. "I'm sorry," she cried, now directed at someone unseen, perhaps imagining Kai somewhere. "I'm so sorry, Kai." Kai stepped forward then, releasing the cloak of inconspicuousness he'd held. He climbed the side steps onto the stage, heart hammering. Students parted for him in astonishment, some whispering, "Kai?" as if seeing a ghost. Jason and Mio both turned to see him approaching. Mio's eyes widened in relief and guilt when she saw him. She looked as if she might collapse. Kai stood at center stage now, facing the pair who betrayed him under the same spotlight that had crowned them moments ago. He looked out at the audience. Students, teachers. Kai felt strangely calm. "You all heard the truth. I was innocent all along," Kai said. The same microphone Mio had held was now in his hand. He wasn't even sure when he had picked it up, but he held it firmly. Jason let out a strangled noise. This can't, he stammered. With everything exposed, his mask was completely off. Here stood a desperate liar with nothing left. "Kai did cheat. He must have tricked Mio somehow. He's doing something to us." Jason's eyes darted around wildly. as if looking for an invisible influence. Kai met Jason's panicked gaze with a cold, steady stare. The only one who tricked anyone was you, Jason. There was a strength in Kai's voice that made Jason shrink back. You tricked the whole school. You tricked me. You used the person His voice wavered only slightly as he glanced at Mio. The person I cared about, to sell your lies. Mio sank to her knees, sobbing softly. Principal Morgan stepped onto the stage, flanked by 2 teachers. I think we've heard enough, he said gravely. He looked at Jason, the disappointment and anger clear on his face. Jason, Mio, I'll be conducting a thorough investigation, but given what we've all witnessed, consider your status at this school under review. He gestured for the teachers to take them aside. Jason, realizing he was essentially being taken into custody, recoiled. No, you can't do this! In a final burst of desperation, he broke from the teacher's approach and lunged at Kai, fist raised as if to strike. Kai didn't flinch. A subtle pulse of his power sent Jason's swing off course. To others, it looked like Jason simply stumbled, his punch swiping air as Kai easily stepped aside. Off balance, Jason fell to his hands and knees on the stage floor. One of the teachers swiftly moved in to restrain him. Mio did not resist, as the other teacher helped her up gently. She was limp, crying quietly and repeating, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Kai handed the microphone back to the student council president, who was gawking in shock. "Thanks," Kai said quietly. Kai took a deep breath, stepping down from the stage. A couple of his classmates approached, stammering apologies for believing the lies. Others just slapped his shoulder in solidarity. He gave polite nods, but his focus was already drifting beyond the crowd. In the corner of the gym, Kai noticed a familiar face, his mother, who had arrived with other parents to help chaperone towards the end of prom. She stood with a hand over her mouth, having witnessed the spectacle. When their eyes met, she gave a small, tearful smile of both apology and relief. Kai felt his eyes burn slightly and gave her a nod. There would be healing to do with his family, but now they knew the truth. Just then, a sudden pop sounded above as one of the remaining balloons in the rafters burst. It startled everyone for a split second, then people laughed nervously. But Kai couldn't shake a feeling that crawled up his spine at that sound, like an omen.